Come on,
So it really is strong.
We in here. Okay, okay, so we're back. So now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to reach into this young basket, and pull out a question, and we're going to answer it. What have you found to be the most difficult part of being in this industry? Up to this point.
Consistency.
In what way?
Just getting consistent work and making it a thing where you can continually, like, I can't just always book a job. If I book a job today, I don't know if I'm gonna book a job for the next 6 months, a year, tomorrow. So that's kind of like a scary thought.
For me, the most difficult part is navigating mostly white spaces in plays that I do, because I have to pick my battles. Because sometimes I have to decide, I'm not getting paid for this, so I have to decide which conversations are worth having, which ones are not worth having, because I'm not out here trying to educate people for no money. And so that, to me, has been a very difficult thing. And also, nobody can pronounce my name in an audition. And people get mad at me when they can't do it. And so I'm already walking into this room with like people having some kind of like bias. Sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's negative because they like my name or they don't know how to pronounce it. But people already are coming in with these opinions. And so that actually, I've had to learn how to walk into rooms and to correct people in a way that doesn't make themselves feel attacked, which I feel like I shouldn't have to do, but here we are in the world. But navigating those conversations, I have found to be difficult in deciding which conversations to navigate or which ones are worth navigating.
I think for me, it's that same thing. White spaces, and lately, in like the last 6 months, it's a conversation I've been having with one of my good friends about just like solidarity or building community. I think that's why I'm like, internally I'm screaming that this is happening. I'm so happy because like finding community is difficult. I think the city is a hard place to live in. I think it's a hard place to find joy in the work because everyone's trying to pay their bills because everything is so expensive. So when you can find people that you can be joyful with, I think it's a huge gift. And I think it's something I've been discovering in the last few, like from December to now, I've just been blessed to like meet people from different parts of my life, old parts of my life who've just been like pouring into me and letting me pour into them. And I think that's what makes for me the career easier is the people I meet and the connections I make, because that makes me realize, oh, this is a journey. Like this is gonna keep going. I'll be okay.
I agree with everything you all said. It's the navigating of the white spaces, it's remaining consistent, and whether or not, it's not knowing if you're gonna have a job in 6 months, even though you just booked a major commercial today. But I would also say a really big challenge is material, I feel like, which is why I am so such an advocate for writers, and especially writers of color and women, and female identifying, of course. So it's just finding the right material. And then, when you're just starting out, you can't really apply Shakespeare to a Bed Bath & Beyond commercial. But like, where's, you can,
I was like, I don't know. No, of course,
with the training, it's like, sometimes I find in audition rooms, especially for commercial work, like I take it too seriously, or just trying to find like the balance with the training and then with the actual work. So those are my challenges.
You guys said such good things. I think because I guess I heard the question as like, what's been challenging? It's about in the industry, right?
Yeah.
Not so more. The time, everything that keeps coming back to me is time, and it's about. But everything you guys all said is connected to that. It's like, how am I using my time? And sometimes it means doing projects that, I'm not getting paid, and then it ends up being really rough. And you're like, man, I wasted all this time. Okay, so let me go back and like focus on this go to like a bunch of auditions, and then you're like, okay, sitting in these rooms for hours trying to get seen, and then you're like, so for me it's time. It's the amount of time that I have and I don't have in being in this industry. Sometimes it's very difficult reconciling, trying to figure out, okay, because you're also missing out on a lot of things in life, and it's difficult trying to like make time for community, difficult to make time for family and relationships and yourself. So yeah, I think time is like the most difficult thing, and it is also the most valuable thing that we have. And,
I want to touch on that, something more practical of something that happened recently. I'm on hold right now for a commercial that shoots from Wednesday to Sunday. I'm on hold.
Can you explain what on hold is?
So on hold, for people to know, it's like basically clear schedule, and we're gonna hold you and just be available. You didn't 100% get the job, but most likely you got the job, but just be on hold. If you have a job, or like a regular job, a family, and like try to make plans, you can't do that. And they said something about like travel dates are Wednesday and Sunday. I'm like, where am I going? I don't even know. I still don't know where I'm going, or if I booked the job yet. But right now, there's like Wednesday to Sunday. Don't plan anything. I'm like, had I had a regular job, like trying to change your schedule is difficult, and trying to maneuver around that is difficult, but you need to almost always be available for these opportunities to happen. So it's kind of like you have to work your way into a position where when those things do happen, you are prepared for that.
Yeah.
Something else that I found difficult, and I think I'm figuring it out in a way, but it's still, I'm having a hard time with this, is in response to like that conflict, how do you set up your life so that when those things do happen, you can be in a position to say, I can quickly take a week off of work? And like, what kinds of jobs outside of your acting work sustain you financially, so you're not so desperate to book every job, but is flexible enough to say, you can take a week off to go shoot this commercial? And what jobs can support you financially, but maybe are a tad more creative, like that whole building your life outside of the job has been equally as difficult to understand as the job itself. Like how to sustain my life in a way so that if I don't book a job for like a year or 2 years, which is a very likely thing that has happened to me before, that I can still wake up day to day and be moderately happy. Like that I think is a really huge thing in terms of like longevity in your career. To say, I haven't booked a job in 6 months, but like I like my other job and I don't mind, and I have these projects that are fulfilling me, and I'm writing this thing or whatever, but setting your life up in a way that like you don't walk into that room every time and you say, if I don't book this is it for me. I think like that is a challenge, but once you can figure that out, I think you are good to go for a long time.
And I think part of what you've said has led me to think about how do you operate. The question I always ask myself is, okay, how do I operate from a place of purpose as opposed to a place of desperation? Even if the reality is, my bank account is slim. How do I remind myself of what my purpose on this earth is? And I think that is one of the things that sustains me, in that things, once I start looking at things through the lens of my purpose, things start to look more like opportunities and less like challenges. They look more like, oh, you know what? I don't have anything to do acting-wise, but I do have all this gear, so I can get some people together and talk about being Habesha and being actors. Because this idea came to me like end of 2019, like the end, like New Year's is coming. Like this is like the 28th of December, and I was so scared to even try it because I was like, DMing people is hard because they don't be responding. And it feels like rejection, and we already get rejected in this game. So it was just like, okay, I'm gonna message Salam, this is the first one. Okay, go. And like just sense it, and then things happen. And I think that like that's something like to anybody that's pursuing this is like remind yourself of your purpose every day, so that you don't have to keep acting from desperation. Because when I meet people who move with desperate intentions, it becomes hard to really connect with them because they're in survival mode. And when you're trying to survive, you can't really thrive. So.
That's a word.
Where's my organ? So
look, even to touch up on that word, our parents came into this country on the base of survival. We're on the base of trying to thrive. So that's a lot of reasons why we can't see eye to eye. It's like your whole life you're trying to survive. You come from war, all this, crazy stuff, and you finally made it to America. Okay, we're here now. We're in this culture where it's not much of a survival game. It's more of a how do we thrive,
Right.
So it's like I can't even really connect with how should parents trying to just because they want us to be safe, like
Yeah.
just get
Yeah.
a good job, go to college, get a good job, be safe, and that's gonna make me happy. It's like that's not gonna make me happy. I know I'm an American. We're Americans. We believe that we can basically do whatever we want and get whatever we want if we just work hard enough and do what we need to do to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that like that also is like a great, just like a mini full circle in the conversation we're having. And what's so important is that a lot of like the disconnect I feel, and I can only speak for myself and my parents, is that they don't have a map because they don't know Habesha actors, right? So they don't know the journey of it. So to them, it's like, well, I don't know when you found success. But like these kinds of conversations, perhaps, and this kind of accessibility will for the future generations go, okay, well, I see these Habeshas in film. I see these Habeshas in TV. I see them on stage. I see them in comedy and commercials. I have a bit more of a roadmap for my own children. And so the access allows for the generations I feel to connect in that way.
I think just to add to that, I also realized, and this is not to take away, because I think we should acknowledge it, is, I mean, there's an Ethiopian National Theater, and they're extremely talented. It's been there for years, and I think the way that that's been looked at, it's just different, right? Like it's different trying to be an actor here versus there, where I think there is a very significant community there, and they're incredibly talented and they perform, but it's also something that's not seen. There's class, right? And there's like status involved. So, and I think that like kind of ties into what you're saying is like, yeah, all of our elders love, all the artists and musicians. I mean, literally, I'm sure if we called our parents, said so-and-so's performing, they'd be like, what? Can you, like, when? Like, I want to go. Like, right? There's still that, like, idolizing, but the idea of, like, oh, my child doing that, well, how are you going to, pay your rent? How are you going to, don't you want to have a family? Don't you, like, you have to have other more practical aspirations. So I think it's like there's a difficulty in reconciling of like I love this, but I didn't grow up thinking that was a respectable route to pursue. And like you said, we're sort of shaking that up. And I think that's the risk they took by like bringing us here. And I don't know.
There's a quote I used to throw back to my parents when I was starting out doing this. There's a book called The Artist as Citizen that was written by a former president of Juilliard. And in it, there's a John Quincy Adams quote that I'm going to paraphrase. But basically it said that we studied war so that our children could study science and then their children could study the arts. And I used to always send that back to my parents because I was like, literally, it's your life. Your dad, your mom, you were going through stuff, the dad, all that, and you were in that, and then look, you're a doctor, and now look, I'm an actor. And then my dad would be like, yeah, that's cute. But I always think about that quote because I think that is a real, like, that is what we come from. And a teacher said to me, you're not your mother's history. You don't have to carry that with you every day. But it is informative, and it informs us.